The stars of the calyx cluster shimmered like shards of glass against the velvet black of space. The galaxy had grown used to the quiet tyranny of the Xyra Dominion, a civilization ruled by strict hierarchy and an unbroken chain of aristocracy. Every century, the ruling family selected an heir to guide the Dominion into the next era. Yet when Queen Xyra's only daughter, Princess Lyria, reached maturity, a horrifying truth became clear. No one wanted to choose her. Lyria was unlike any royal the Dominion had seen. Her skin shimmered with faint violet undertones, a sign of rare genetic mutation among the Xyra. Her eyes glowed with an iridescent silver light, but instead of inspiring awe, it unnerved the nobles. They whispered that her beauty was unnatural, that her mind was unpredictable, that her visions of the future, often startlingly accurate, were dangerous. For decades, the court remained silent, each lord and lady hoping someone else would step forward to take the responsibility of guiding the Dominion through the uncertain times ahead. The queen, heartbroken yet composed, continued to rule alone. She shielded her daughter from courtly disdain, providing her with tutors in diplomacy, warfare, and interstellar science. Lyria grew brilliant, her mind capable of unraveling the most complex galactic equations, yet her loneliness was a shadow she could not escape. "I will not hide forever," Lyria said one evening, standing on the observation deck of the Royal Starship Etherian. She gazed at the swirling nebulae, imagining what life beyond the Dominion might look like. "If they refuse to choose me, I must find someone who will see my worth." That someone arrived sooner than she expected. Humanity had long been considered insignificant by the Xyra, a species with rudimentary technology and chaotic governance. But Captain Aiden Ray, commanding the vessel Aurora, had made a name for himself by negotiating peace between warring colonies on the Outer Rim. When the Dominion's emissaries intercepted his ship in uncharted space, they expected a human to cower. Instead, Aiden stepped forward, calm, confident, and utterly unafraid. The Queen, intrigued by his reputation, invited him to the palace on Xypheron Prime. Aiden accepted, though he sensed immediately that the royal court was tense, filled with eyes that judged him as both foreign and inferior. "You must understand," Queen Xyra said during their first private meeting, "my daughter has never been chosen. No one in this room has had the courage, or perhaps the wisdom, to step forward. Why have you come?" Aiden studied her, his gaze steady. "Because someone must. And perhaps it's time a human reminded your people that leadership isn't about bloodlines. It's about vision, courage, and the willingness to act when others hesitate." The Queen raised an eyebrow. "And you would nominate her?" Aiden nodded. "Not nominate. Support. Stand with her. Help her prove herself to a galaxy that doubts her." Word spread quickly, faster than Lyria had dared hope. Rumors of a human advocating for the Xyra princess inflamed the court. Some nobles sneered, claiming the human had no right to interfere. Others whispered that this might be the opportunity Lyria needed. The tension came to a head during the Great Assembly, a ritual where heirs were formally acknowledged. Lyria stepped onto the dais, her silver eyes bright with determination. "I know why no one has chosen me," she said, voice echoing in the marble hall. "Because I am different. Because I see the galaxy not as it is, but as it could be. And because those who fear change often hide behind tradition. But the galaxy cannot thrive in fear. It needs vision. It needs courage." Murmurs rippled through the audience. The nobles exchanged glances, some clearly angry, others uncertain. Then Aiden stepped forward. The whole fell silent. He looked around, not at the nobles, but at the people gathered in the galleries. "I see her," he said simply. "I see her potential. I see the leader this galaxy desperately needs. And I will stand by her, not because of her lineage, but because of who she is and what she represents." A hush followed, the kind that makes history hold its breath. It was a gamble. In a society that had never been influenced by an outsider, a human's voice mattered only if it could inspire the will of the people. Aiden's words, however, resonated. Citizens, previously silent, began to cheer. The murmur grew into a roar. The queen watched, her eyes glistening, as the impossible began to happen. The assembly, the nobles, and the people collectively acknowledged Lyria as a rightful heir. But declaring her heir was only the beginning. The Xyra Dominion faced threats from beyond. The Revan swarm, a marauding species from a neighboring cluster, had begun its invasion. No one could predict the extent of their cruelty. Lyria knew that to survive, she would need more than the Assembly's endorsement. She would need strategy, alliances, and the daring only a few could muster. Aiden became her advisor, guiding her through tactical simulations and diplomacy. Yet the human also taught her something no tutor could: empathy. He reminded her that leadership was not about control, but connection, that a ruler's power came not from fear, but from loyalty earned through respect. The first test came swiftly. The Revan swarm launched a surprise attack on Xyra Prime, aiming to cripple the Dominion before it could consolidate under Lyria's rule. The fleet was outnumbered, the technology of the swarm superior in raw firepower. Panic swept through the palace, but Lyria remained calm. She and Aiden devised a bold plan. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, they would manipulate the swarm senses using holographic decoys, luring them into a nebula filled with volatile gas pockets. It was dangerous. One miscalculation would destroy their fleet, but it was the only chance. "Are you ready?" Aiden asked, his hand resting briefly on Hayes, a gesture of solidarity. "I've never been more ready," Lyria replied. The battle was a spectacle of light and shadow. Ships darted between the gas pockets, firing energy beams that reflected unpredictably, confusing the swarm sensors. Lyria commanded with precision, her voice calm over the comms. Each decision was a calculated risk, each maneuver a gamble that could cost thousands of lives. By the end of the engagement, the swarm had retreated, their fleet battered and demoralized. The Xyra Dominion had survived, and it was Lyria who had led them. A human had believed in her when no Xyra dared. Together, they had changed the course of history. In the aftermath, the queen officially crowned her daughter, acknowledging both her bravery and the courage of the human who had stood beside her. During the ceremony, Lyria addressed the crowd, her voice carrying across the palace gardens. "The galaxy may fear what is different, but difference is not weakness. It is strength. I am the queen's daughter, yes, but I am also a citizen of this galaxy, and I will lead not for power, but for the future we all share. And I will not stand alone. We are stronger together, all species united, all voices heard." Aiden stood by her side, the first human in history to witness a Xyra coronation. Their bond was no longer just alliance. It was respect, trust, and the beginning of a partnership that would redefine interstellar politics. Months later, under Queen Lyria's leadership, the Dominion flourished. Trade routes expanded. Previously warring planets formed coalitions, and even former skeptics of the princess acknowledged her vision. The galaxy, once rigid and fearful, began to embrace change. Lyria never forgot the loneliness of her youth, the silence of a court too afraid to choose her. She often returned to the observation deck of Etherian, gazing at the stars that had once seemed so distant. But now, they felt like friends, possibilities waiting to be explored. "Thank you," she whispered one evening, speaking not to Aiden, but to the universe, "for giving me a chance." Aiden smiled beside her. "You didn't just get a chance, Lyria. You created one, and you changed everything." As the twin suns of Xyra set, casting amber and violet across the planet's surface, Lyria understood the truth she had always known deep within. Leadership was never about who chose you. It was about who had the courage to step forward when the galaxy needed change. And she, with a human by her side, had done exactly that. The galaxy would never forget it.